I made a game I thought nobody would play. The game in question is called Skip. I released it in March of 2023 to little fanfare. It is on Steam for all of £2.49. As of this video, surprisingly, a total of 103 people have actually played Skip, which is 103 people more than I thought would play Skip. If you haven't played it, which I assume if you're watching this video will be many of you, well, Skip is a first-person puzzle game that requires some critical thinking, puzzle solving, and a pen and paper. If that short description takes your fancy, then I suggest you give it a try. Link in the description. For less than the price of a coffee, you can roughly get 3 to 4 hours of gameplay. If that does not take your fancy, then Skip is a result of a game developed without any sort of proper vision. To get a proper idea of how Skip came to be, we need to rewind time back to 2014. It was the summer of 2014, and at the time I found myself living in the great country that is the Netherlands. That summer I had managed to get an internship as a 3D artist for a small studio working on the game Divided We Fall. So I made my way from the UK and stayed for 3 months. Not long after I started working, my routine became established. Work at the internship during the day and then head back to the place I was staying at. Most evenings were spent sat at my laptop to pass the time. Unfortunately, this laptop's Wi-Fi card had a fault which caused many online games to stutter, so any distraction such as Dota or Counter-Strike was off the table. Bored one evening, I decided I should probably check out this new Unreal Engine 4, having used Unreal Engine 3 at university. So with that, Unreal Engine 4 was installed, and for my first project, I made a small sci-fi scene for a portfolio piece. Nothing great, but a solid start into Unreal Engine 4. Then, one evening, I decided I wanted to make some pixel art limited to the original Game Boy's colour palette. So, I started drawing. At first, I wanted to draw a hill, similar to the ones in the original Super Mario background. But not long after sketching out the rough form, I decided it looked more like a window. So I drew in some more outer elements and it soon looked more like a sci-fi window. Then I sketched in some more bits and soon enough I had an entire texture atlas of different elements. Now I had this atlas, I thought maybe I could make a game with this. And knowing Unreal Engine 4 had these things called blueprints, this didn't seem too far-fetched. So I booted up another project and got to learning. The first thing I decided to make was a first-person controller. I knew I didn't want to use the built-in template as I wanted to understand the inner workings of how it all worked. So following some tutorials at the time, I managed to piece together a very basic first-person controller. After this, I thought an automatic door would be an easy challenge. A few tutorials later, I had a rough automatic door. Also, using the texture atlas, I started modelling structural elements, doors, walls, tunnels, and various props. I then decided to add a lift that would allow the player to travel up and down, and it wasn't long before I had a level to roam around. But one question still evaded me. What is this game about? This was a question that wouldn't properly be answered until 2022, but for the time being, I just kept adding stuff. Also, what to call it? Well, it came to be a skip and a hop too far into Lightspeed, a name in a similar vein to A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Fast forward to December 2015. By this time I had been working on a skip and a hop too far into Lightspeed for just over a year and a bit. December was approaching and I decided it would become a milestone to get a demo release out. After a bit more development and tuning, it was ready. December 1st, 2015, a skip and a hop too far into Lightspeed had a demo. It had 5 levels and a very rough game loop. If you want to try it, it's still available to download on itch.io. Link in the description. Effectively, the game was this. Find the floppy disk and insert it into the computer to complete the level. Each level had manual pieces you could find to help you understand what to do. At the end of each level, you are ranked between F and S, similar to Sonic Adventure 2. To get the best rank, you had to finish each level in a specific time frame and collect all 8 pieces of the manual. Most of the best times require the player to switch off all the engines to give themselves unlimited time. However, the engines need to be turned back on before you insert the disc to finish the level. Run out of time and the ship crashes, forcing you to try again. Overall, I was happy with what I achieved. I knew it wasn't anything special, but I put it out there and proceeded to forget about it. The year is now 2022. By this time I've worked on various projects in Unreal, from VR escape rooms to automotive configurators, and the biggest game project I've had the opportunity to work on, that being a game called Perish. Definitely worth checking out, link in the description. It was the middle of 2022 and I was a bit lost of what to work on. So a friend of mine suggested, why not revisit a skip and a hop? I thought, you know what, that might not be a bad idea. So I loaded up the Blender file with all the assets and started to think, what could I do with this all? Around this time, Godot 4.0 had not long come out, and I'd been tinkering with Godot in the few years prior. With the idea of revisiting a skip and a hop too far into Lightspeed and wanting to try Godot 4.0, it seemed like the perfect time to remake the game. The first thing I did was imported all the assets into Godot. Then I began placing walls and floors. I also ended up making another first-person controller that could also handle pickups, jumping, and a basic inventory system. But even with all these basic elements, the game was still missing something, a much-needed core feature. 2022 also saw me play a very influential game for Skip, that being the game Tunic. Tunic, if you haven't played it, well, stop this video and go play it right now. It is hands down one of the best games I've played. Seriously, go play it. The aspect that I enjoyed the most was the game manual. Within Tunic, you find pieces of the game manual throughout the game that are in a language that you as the player don't understand. But through the pictures and trial and error, you're able to figure out the game and play through it. It is just so clever. This gave me an idea. What if the entire game is in a weird language? So with that in mind, I decided that all the text in Skip would be written in a language that I made up called Skiplish. And when I mean all the text, I mean it. Menus and all. Given this, I knew what the game would be. A first-person puzzle game. Most of the game was fairly straightforward to make. Most of the puzzles are find this item and place it over there. Probably the most complex bit was the save system. But even then, that was just a matter of ensuring each puzzle element saved its state and restored itself on reload. I started Skip sometime in July of 2022, and its first commit was in September of the same year. 54 commits or so later, Skip was finished, roughly taking 40 or so working days to complete. March 14th was picked as the release date as it aligned with Pi Day, which I thought sort of matched the vibe of the game in some way. Also, it should be noted early on, I decided to shorten the name of A Skip and a Hop Too Far into Lightspeed to just Skip. The next issue I had was how do I market this, if at all? Honestly, marketing was an afterthought. One idea I had is that I wanted the game to sort of be a found piece of lost media. I would later learn about fake games, such as Valet Verde, which leans into this idea after Skip's release, but the idea of the game being this lost piece of media was something I wanted to achieve. For the Steam page, I tried to keep the description as short as possible to what Valve would allow, hoping it would intrigue players and help play into the idea that this is some sort of weird copy-pasta game. I also tried to lean into the idea that this game would be impossible to complete and created a few boosted YouTube shorts to help promote the game. While it got views, it didn't really help the visibility of the game at all. I don't think I did the game justice within these shorts, but I didn't want to give too much of the game away. Also, I was beginning to be concerned about the whole idea that this game is unreadable. Would people get it? Would they turn it down because it's too weird? Concerns aside, I decided it would be what it will be, and with that, I hit release and let it out into the ether. I can't remember, but after a day or so, I got a message from someone who had actually played it. And to my surprise, they actually enjoyed it. They said they liked how the game was challenging and how it doesn't tell you what to do. You need to figure it out. Slowly, I got a few more responses that were also positive, and to my amazement, quite a few people just stumbled upon it from the front page and decided to give it a go. I even got a person from Germany do an entire video on it, which is something I did not expect. It also proved that the game is playable by non-native English speakers, which is something I did not consider. That said, this initial fanfare was short-lived, and the day after release, Skip was doomed to the depths of Steam's deep barrel, where it now lives, barely seeing a single person even give it a moment's thought. Overall, I'm glad I gave Skip a proper chance. From its early conception as a Unreal Engine 4 demo to a full game mode in Godot, it's something I can say I'm happy with and had a hand at making entirely. From the audio, modelling, texturing, programming and designing, I did it all. It's been a while since Skip, but what I will say is I've been cooking up another game in the background. This game is entirely different from Skip in overall vibes and art direction. The game in question is called Isles of Rain. Last year, I released a demo for the Steam Next Fest, the demo which you can play right now. Link in the description. Isles of Rain is still a long way off, but I'm hoping I can try and stick with it and release it eventually. I don't know how well it will be received, but again, I'm making it because I want to. The scope is a lot larger than Skip, and it is giving me new challenges to try and learn and overcome. And that's it. That's the story of Skip, a game I thought nobody would play. Turns out, some people would play it. Now maybe, now you've seen this video, you'll give Skip a go. Anyway, thanks for watching.